Remember, in the course of discussing movies, the host will spoil plots. You've been warned. Listen to their screams.
Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast that feels like you're chatting with friends. I am one of your friends, Dave. We're joined as always by our other friend, Ike. Ike, how are you?
I'm doing pretty all right. You know, it's a wonderful day in the neighborhood.
Yeah, are you feeling jolly? We're just a couple weeks, a little more than a couple weeks. Well, no, actually, I guess a little under a couple weeks from Christmas. So, feeling a little jolly.
Yeah, it's almost there. I'm ready for some time off to unwind and chillax.
Yes, I'm super excited. I'm off next week, so I'm very excited to. Well, I'm off 4 days. I just our busy day of the week. I hate to take off because I hate to leave that for other people to do, and or maybe it's actually just that control, whatever controlling I am. It's like I don't want other people doing it. I don't know. But I'm off 4 days next week, four work days. So
love that. Oh, I'm the same way. If I'm ever off, I'm like, yeah, I don't want other people doing my stuff. I want to be able to do my own thing, and yeah, it's not my favorite thing.
Yeah, and when I'm off, all I can do is at least once a day. I think, God, I'm gonna have so many emails when I get back. But I'm not gonna worry about that right now because we're about to talk horror movies, including our review for today of It's a Wonderful Knife, which was out in theaters not too long ago, but is now available on Shudder and AMC Plus. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Before we get there, let's talk about what we watched. Ike, I don't think I watched anything horror related this past week. I've watched plenty of stuff, more some Christmas movies, Christmas specials, different things, but I really don't think I watched anything horror related. How about you?
Yeah, I honestly, I watched, like you said, I watched some Christmas stuff. Just, we talked a little bit about last week, but there's always those Christmas movies you have to watch every year. So I did catch a couple of those. I haven't watched Krampus yet, so that's going to be coming up here pretty soon because that's obviously on my Christmas horror watch list. But yeah, I mean, not a whole lot. Me and the wife have been doing a rewatch of The Vampire Diaries. It's a very addictive show, so watching that has taken up a lot of my time when I do have time to watch stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Monica and I constantly watch Supernatural in a loop. We're about to finish it again, and of course, then we'll just restart it again. But
right.
There's always that. But no, nothing else horror related. So I guess we'll just march right on and get to our weekly segment.
Top 3.
And this week we're doing a top 3. The old original, the one that we did many episodes at the beginning of our podcast before we switched it up and added a little whatever you want to call it, variety into our mix. But we're back doing a top 3, and today we're going to do our top 3 favorite Christmas horror movie villains. Whew, that's a mouthful. So Ike, you got your top 3 and ready to roll?
I think so.
All right. Well, I will begin. I will bet dollars to donuts that my number 3 is somewhere on your list. But at my number 3, it is Krampus from the 2015 movie. This is I've watched a few different Krampus movies. I know there's 1,000,001 of them out there, maybe even more than that. And there's a wide variety of different things that they do. What did we watch recently? Oh, the last week when we watched what was it?
34th Street.
Yeah, Nightmare on 34th Street. And that one segment had a kind of a wacky looking Krampus in it. But I think this one is I think it's really good. It really looks kind of realistic, believable. Believable within the realm of suspension of belief, but you know what I mean. Doesn't look goofy, and of course I love the movie. The movie's great, and I like how it's like you get teased the Krampus a lot through the movie, different things with the hoof prints and different things happening. but it takes a while before you really full bore get to see it, and I kind of like that. It kind of builds the suspense there for a while when you first watch it. So that's my number 3. I will guarantee that it's probably on your top 3 somewhere.
It
But
is.
it is. All right. Well, we'll when we get to that, you can add your bit. So let's move right ahead then. Ike, what is your number 3 favorite Christmas horror movie villain?
I would say my top 3 is actually a little weird. Krampus is on it, but the other two, one of them might be on your list. But my number 3 is Billy from Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Mm-hmm. He is on my list.
So last year was the first year I ever watched Silent Night, Deadly Night. Actually the first time I've ever seen that movie, period. But it was a very interesting movie. It was a very interesting experience. And I think Billy is one of those more unfortunate horror movie villains because truly his story is a story of tragedy. He has very long-standing trauma from his experiences in his life, and it makes for a very convincing but also a very sympathetic villain, although a very violent one. And one of the premier things that I sometimes enjoy about Christmas slashers is that sometimes you have the human element. And this movie very much has the human element. Billy isn't some extraordinary, monster. He is just a human who is very just angry and very vengeful. And, he doesn't do anything that a human can't do. So it very much strikes my love of slashers. And Billy, again, is a very sympathetic villain. Despite his actions, he is obviously very sympathetic because of his past. So he is my number 3 on this list.
Yeah, he is on my list as well. So I'll wait and give my 2 cents when we get to him, which is not now. So I guess I can deduct where he is on my list.
Yes.
But my number 2 is similar. My number 2 on the list is Harry from Christmas Evil from 1980. And Harry it's very similar as well. Christmas Evil is a great movie. And in Harry, it's kind of the same thing. He's a bad dude. He does some bad shit, but you understand why he's so twisted. And I mean, he had a traumatic event as a child that created this obsession with Santa Claus, and that leads to what he does. So they always say the best villains, number one, typically they believe what they're doing is right. And number 2, there is a kernel of relatability, right? It's like, man, there's a fine line between sanity and insanity, and and it just takes one thing to nudge a person over, and so I think Harry's he's got that right. Like you said, he's you feel for him, but then it's like you can't justify what he does, but yet it's like you can almost understand the reasoning. But Ike, have you ever seen Christmas Evil?
I have never seen Christmas Evil, so I can't really comment on it too much. But I like a good Christmas slasher. I'm pulling up Christmas Evil here on what's it called, IMDb. Just taking a quick gander at it, but yeah, I mean it looks interesting. I'm always down for that. It looks like it's on AMC Plus, so that's a positive. I always like a good AMC Plus Shudder movie, so. I can't say too much, but I'll have to check it out this Christmas season.
Yes, give it a watch, and report back in by the end of the year.
Yeah, I will definitely try. All right, so I guess that means it's my turn. My turn to give you my number 2. All right.
It is.
And what I mean by number 2 is not my poop. It is my number 2 choice on this top 3, just in case there's any confusion. My number 2 is Luke from Better Watch Out. So
yeah.
I talked about this last week. I did mention the movie briefly, but I was like, I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot because I do want to talk about it if we ever did a top 3, and we decided to end up doing a top 3. So what do you know? So Luke and Better Watch Out. So this is the other side of the spectrum of understandable slashers. Luke is by and large probably one of the most unrelatable slashers because he is truly a psychopath. Not to spoil too much, but the movie, basically the whole premise is that A babysitter is babysitting Luke, and Luke and the babysitter basically believe they're being the victims of a home invasion, but it turns out to all have been a ruse done by Luke. And he did it with very nefarious intentions. And basically, this movie spirals from nefarious intention to just plain out, honestly, sadism. And it's honestly a very interesting look at like a young psychopath, basically. And it's very interesting to see it. But yeah, Luke is very much not a relatable villain, but he is very, very fucked up. And I think that's definitely a contrast to, Silent Night, Deadly Night, or, the Christmas, or the, Christmas Evil.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So it's very different in comparison to those two movies, or in comparison to like a supernatural evil, if you will.
Yeah, I watched this after you brought it up. Man, it was a fucking great movie.
Right.
And it really twisted where I didn't expect it pretty early on, because you read the description and they talk about, again, this is we give the warning up top. There's spoilers abound here, but you read the description and it talks about a home intruder or whatever, and that's kind of what I was thinking. I thought, well, this is gonna be pretty straightforward, right? This is whatever, and I'm watching it, and man, they very, very quickly they make you feel for this kid. Right? He's like, oh, he's got a crush on his babysitter. He's kind of dorky. He's trying these weird things he read off the internet, thinks that, will help get the babysitter's attention. But you just think he's some nerdy kid who's crushing on his babysitter. And, his parents were kind of weird and everything. And you kind of feel him for the kid a little bit. Right? And you're sitting there thinking, oh, there's going to be this home intruder, or these, the babysitter's going to end up, liking him too by the end. That's what you think's going to, kind of where you suspect it's going to go. And then they throw the kind of the first twist is when they, she makes the guy unmask and it's the kid's friend.
Right.
And you think, I'm sitting there kind of thinking, that doesn't make sense. That's lame. And then you find out he's just a pawn. And this kid, the kid that played Luke, was fucking amazing. And it's very much, this is true, right? Because they bring up, how the friend's hamster died, right? And Luke didn't tell him or something or whatever. Then later Luke reveals, hey, he didn't just die. I killed him. And, which is, that's typical, right? These kids, doing things to animals when they're young to experiment with these things that, they got going on. And, yeah, it's a really, really, really good movie, and it's got one of those, I don't know, it's believable enough that it really adds to that creepiness. And there's nods to other things too, right? Like with the paint bucket thing, it's kind of the Home Alone nod, right, and everything, and then the ending was great, because I really just I don't like when movies try to take the ending too far, and this ending was really, really good. Where he pulled off everything he thought, right? Everything he thought, he nailed it all, and he got away with it, and everything else. And then as his mom comes home and wakes him up, and he's trying to play like, oh my God, what happened? And then he hears everybody say, oh, we have a survivor. Is she still alive? And that's just, again, I'm giving it away. So if somebody's not seen it, skip ahead, because I just got to say it. At the end though, he looks out the window and she's being wheeled out to the ambulance, it just flips him off. It's so classic, and that's where it ends. It was great, because it's like they didn't take it too far, right? They didn't give away enough. It was a very satisfying finish for me, and yeah. So I know I talked a lot about a movie that wasn't even on my list, but
no, but it's a surprising movie, and that's what I always tell people. That's what me and my wife were talking about. We're like, I was not expecting like A, for this movie to be that good, but also B, like, I was not expecting that ending. And I think that it says a lot that this is just some random Christmas horror movie that I had heard of but completely overlooked for, 9 years, 7 years. I don't know how to count. 7 years, because it came out in 2016. But yeah, it's really good. And like you said, it's one of those movies that you don't expect the twist, and then when the twist happens, it just progressively gets worse. Like, there's not a moment in this film that like I was expecting what was about to happen. But the entire time, it was just like, okay, this literally just gets progressively worse. The longer that this movie goes on, the worse it gets.
Yeah, and I mean, and I truly thought the ending. I thought they were going to leave it with him pulling it off, and
Yeah.
I thought they left the door open for something further or whatever, and I thought I thought that's pretty creepy too. But then it had that little humorous touch at the end, and that was pretty funny. But
It
yeah, it's a
was.
very 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 good movie. I think that'll be one I'll watch probably every year. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Same.
So I think then we're down to the number ones, which are not going to be any surprise for anybody that's keeping track at home, because both have been mentioned already. My number one from Silent Night, Deadly Night, 1984, it is Billy. And I can't add too much to what you said, Ike. Silent Night, Deadly Night is probably my favorite Christmas horror movie of all time. I love it. And the movie is so good. And like you said, Billy snaps. He does all these things, but it's like all you sit there and think is, yeah, I get it. I understand. Because this dude had a fucked up life. I mean, seeing his parents killed, fucking being abused in an orphanage by the nun, getting, he finally gets out or not gets out, but he gets a job, and the dude that he's working with is an asshole, and it's just one thing after another, and you really feel for him, and so there's a couple of those kills it gets to, and you're like, yeah, okay, I was rooting for Billy on that one. Now there's a couple where you don't. I kind of broke my heart that he killed the guy that gave him the job at the store, because that drunk old guy was fun. And but then and this movie does again. I won't give this one away, but this movie, there are several sequels, and this movie does a great job right at the finish of setting up the sequel, and it is beautiful. It's a really really good job. So the sequels are not quite as good, but at least they did something kind of creative, I mean, or not, whatever. They didn't just try to keep regurgitating Billy over and over.
Right.
So that's my number one. Ike, I think we all know, but just to put the bow on the gift here, what is your number one favorite Christmas horror movie villain?
Well, like you said, if you haven't been keeping track, Dave's top three, his number three was good old Krampus, and that is my number one. Honestly, Krampus is probably, in my opinion, one of the best horror icons for the Christmas season. He is the exact antithesis to Santa Claus, who, for all intents and purposes, is the protagonist of Christmas. So Krampus has a lot of different depictions. I think the 2016 Krampus is by and large the best version of him, especially in terms of like modern media. There are a lot of good third, like B movie type movies that have Krampus. I quite enjoyed the Nightmare on 34th Street's depiction of Krampus. But Krampus again has a lot of different depictions throughout media. Whether he's a demon, whether he's just like the opposite of Santa Claus, or whatever the case may be. There's also a really cool anthology movie called A Christmas Horror Story that has Krampus in it. But by and large, like I said, I think the 2016 Krampus is the best depiction of him in modern media. And like Dave said, that movie's so good. It has a really cool lead up. All of his evil toys, they are just super creepy. And for Krampus, for what you get with Krampus, and this is something too that I wanted to mention, but obviously I didn't mention it earlier. But the great thing about Krampus, and it was something I didn't really realize until I watched it the last time, is that it's rated PG-13. I would not have guessed that this was a PG-13 movie from watching it. I mean, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of really scary graphic imagery, but it's a PG-13 horror movie nonetheless. So they really stretch for that PG-13 rating, I think. But it's such a good movie, and it's a rewatchable movie. If you watch it once, you're gonna watch it again. So that's my take on Krampus.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good movie. It is one I watch every Christmas. And yeah, like you said, there's a lot of different Krampus, and then none of them are. It's hard to. I mean, obviously, maybe the movie quality could be, but Krampus is one where almost every whatever culture out there has some incarnation of it in the folklore, right? Just like how Santa differs from culture to culture in some ways. Like you said, so does Krampus. And so there could be different interpretations and different twists on it, but yeah, this one is definitely a fun movie. And I saw someone online the other day said it, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty. I like the comparison. Is they say that something to the effect of, in their mind, they view this Krampus as for Christmas as kind of how Trick or Treat is for Halloween, and that it's very tied to the some of the holiday lore, and just a fun watch that they watch every year. And it, excuse me, it's I like that. I think it's a good comparison. Not that the movies themselves are necessarily alike, but in the vibe, the feel, the holiday aspect of it, I can see that correlation.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I think pretty much every holiday or season has kind of one of those movies, if you will.
Do we have a good Easter horror movie?
Maybe not Easter specifically, but I think there are like no Easter Bunny horror movies, but I think there are a few horror movies set around Easter, maybe.
We need a definitive top-notch horror movie, because now we've got Thanksgiving, right? We've got a definitive one there, and I don't know. We'll have to dive into that as we come upon a holiday. So, what's our next big thing? There's New Year's. I always think Terror Train for New Year's, just because it takes place at New Year's, and I love Terror Train with Jamie Lee Curtis and David Copperfield and whatever else. But yeah, so as holidays approach, we'll see if we'll try to name what we think is the definitive holiday horror movie for that holiday. So
we'll have to do that. Sounds like a plan to me.
It's a little hard for Halloween. It's a little hard for Christmas, but because there's a ton of those. But I think
the other holidays are a little easier.
Yeah, easier or harder trying to find one that's worth watching, depending on how you look at it. So, all right, well, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have news and birthdays and anniversaries. So stick around. Make sure you subscribe to Listen to Their Screams on your favorite podcast platform. Also, make sure you look us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, and Slasher. All you have to do is look up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2 in Screams, and you can find us there. Also, make sure you go and buy yourself a Listen to Their Screams t-shirt. You can find all of our shirts at tinyurl.com/Screams Shirts.
Spread the news. Spread the news. Spread the news. And we're back with the news. All right, we have some pretty juicy little tidbits here for you. But starting us off at the top, we have Stranger Things Season 5 is targeted to begin filming in early January. I believe that this probably is going to release sometime in 2025. If I had to take a shot in the dark. Just with the whole writer strike and everything else, I know this is one of those projects that was pretty heavily impacted, but we'll see what comes of it. Hopefully it's good product. I have hope for it. But we'll hopefully start seeing some filming and whatnot starting in early January.
Yeah, I like Stranger Things. I fully enjoy it, and they've said this is it. This is the end of it. Which, I think you have to, right? These kids are going to be some of them are or they maybe all of them are virtually adults now. There's only so long you can take this, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see how they close it out and what they do.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of them are getting a little old for like the whole kid thing. But I have heard that they intend to make some spinoff content from the Stranger Things universe. So maybe some prequel type stuff, or maybe some stuff more based in the current generation, things like that. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, another little bit of news that me and Dave were actually talking about just the other day. Saw 11 has officially been announced, and it is scheduled to be released September 27, 2024. This, of course, is fantastic news, but Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger, who wrote Jigsaw, Spiral, and Saw X, will not be returning to write. There's no word yet on who will be writing or directing, or really any of the cast members. It is, of course, rumored that John Kramer will be back, but that's obviously not substantiated since it's just been recently announced as a project. But obviously, Dave and I are both excited about this. We actually talked about in length about how they can make more movies. And I think that there's a good chance that we might either get another prequel or maybe some other form of content.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see what they do with this, and where it is in the timeline, and what they do. I liked how they approached the last one, and where they put it. So I don't know. I don't know if this one, I don't know. The last one kind of led to the next one, so I'm not sure. But I'm sure they've got something in mind.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Hopefully they're not going into it completely blind. But hey, you never know. Uh, so some other good news is Lauren Rivera is signed on to return as Sienna for Terrifier 3. We're also going to see the return of Elliot Fulham, who plays Jonathan, Samantha Scafidi, who plays Victoria, Chris Jericho, who plays Burke, and of course David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. We actually have a small teaser for Terrifier 3 that was released with the Terrifier 2 re-release in November. And I think everybody's really excited for this. I think everybody's ready for it. It'll be releasing in 2024, but it's very exciting to see that a lot of these people are coming back, and that it's all officially on the books.
Yeah, and Damien Leone has kind of indicated that he kind of expects 3 to kind of close out this trilogy, right? That it kind of, not necessarily that it will be the end of Terrifier per se, but this is kind of the end of what he envisioned the story, and that he's open to letting other directors, other producers, other people play in a sandbox, so to speak. But the story and the ideas he's had for this, he's going to bring to fruition through these, the 1, 2, 3, and that's what it's going to be. And I've heard that this one's going to pick up right where the last one left off. What could potentially be a spoiler. So if somebody does not really at all want to hear this is just a suspected spoiler on my part. Chris Jericho did put out on social media a thing of him, sitting in a chair getting scanned, his face, and he was kind of making a weird face. And, he was all like, oh, guess what this is for? I would almost guarantee this is probably for Terrifier 3. And I'm guessing he's returning. And if this is picking up where the last one left off, I would guess we'll see Mr. Jericho killed off really quick at the beginning of this movie. More than likely would be what I would suspect. I mean, I can't imagine having this, a big part. But I based on him getting scanned, I'm guessing that they're setting up for the practical effects for his death. Would be what I would guess. So
hopefully, I like a good death scene, especially in Terrifier.
Yep.
But all right, one more thing for some news. Universal and Blumhouse are bringing the Wolfman remake to theaters on October 25th, 2024. The movie will now star Christopher Abbott and will be directed by Leigh Whannell. Mm-hmm. Leigh Whannell, of course, is from Insidious and Saw fame. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who Christopher Abbott is. I'm
not sure. I saw a picture of him. He's in. I guess I saw some show. I don't know what the show was, but I don't know if it's a pretty big deal. I don't know. Picture wise, he had a good look for this. I know it was going to be Jake Gyllenhaal, but apparently he is no longer being tied to this project. So, take it for what it is. They have thrown this date out there. I'm sure it is tentative, fluid, but I'm sure they would like to put this out right around Halloween like that. Only a year away, so hopefully they're rolling on this project if they want to turn it out in under a year now. So that means they really need to start shooting right after the first of the year on this, because I know in that back on the Terrifier 3, Damien Leone said they were starting shooting in February. So they gotta if they're gonna release this in October, they need to be ready to shoot. So we'll see. I'm hoping I hope it's a good take.
Yeah.
Leigh Whannell also did the most recent take on Invisible Man, I believe. So there's that too. So I like the Wolfman. I love werewolf movies can be really, really good, and it's one of those that you can throw in any time period and you can make it work if you do it right. So I hope hopefully they do it right, and the key is that the transformation has to look great, and it can't look cheesy or hokey. It's got to look it's got to be there. That's the kill. That's what sinks you in a werewolf movie. So, so hopefully, I like Lee Winnell being tied to it. It gives me a lot of hope.
Also, I did look him up, and I do recognize him now that I'm looking at him. He was actually in a TV show I watched pretty recently called The Sinner.
Yeah.
It's actually really good too. It has Bill Pullman in it, but yeah, that's where I recognize him from. But yeah, he looked good. I mean, I think he could pull it off. He's got good acting chops, and like you said, I think with Leigh Whannell attached to the project, it'll be positive. I think.
I believe so.
All right. Now we are on to our birthdays. We are getting close to Christmas, so we're going to hopefully have some Christmas birthdays. But December 17th, 1945, we have Ernie Hudson, who plays Winston Zeddemore in the Ghostbusters franchise. Of course, Ernie Hudson is legendary. He was in Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters Afterlife and many of the other, formats of which the Ghostbusters have existed. And yeah, I mean, he's great. I mean, Ghostbusters is iconic as a good little Halloween spooky movie.
Yeah, and he should have a big role in the upcoming Ghostbusters movie because he, came into the end of Afterlife and is the one that, bought the firehouse back and all this stuff. So, but yeah, I like Ernie Hudson. I like Winston. He's a great character in those movies.
Absolutely, love it. And then December 18th, 1946, we also have Steven Spielberg. Now, Steven Spielberg, of course, he has, he has so much. He's done so much. But just to name a few, Jaws, E.T., Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones. These are some of the highlights, I would say, of especially for nerd culture and pop culture in general. I know Dave really enjoys Jaws, and, I know I like Jurassic Park, and I like a lot of the stuff he makes, so... That's definitely a legendary birthday to have in December.
Yeah, and it's wild to think because you have Jaws, E.T., Jurassic Park, just those three alone, at the time of their release were record breaking movies. I mean they broke box office records at those times, and that's not even taking into account the Indiana Jones stuff he did and Close Encounters of the Third Kind and whatever else. I mean there's a whole slew, but yeah, I mean I those are my favorites. I love Jaws. I love E.T. I love Jurassic Park. I love the Indiana Jones movies. So yeah, Steven Spielberg apparently knows what I like.
Fair enough.
Apparently knows what a lot of people like, but
I mean, I'd say he's made enough money. I think he has a little bit of an idea of what the world of pop culture really wants.
Yep.
Love it. And then we also have on December 19, 1949, we have Nancy Loomis Keys. She plays Annie in the 1970 Halloween, Sandy in The Fog, and Linda in Halloween 3. So obviously, this is one of those ones that might be a little more niche, especially for people who aren't super familiar with the more, inner workings of some of these earlier horror movies in the 70s and whatnot. But yeah, Nancy Loomis Keys is plays Annie in the 78 Halloween. I feel like that's the one I most picture her as.
Yeah.
But I forgot that she was also in the third one. I actually forgot about that.
Yeah, she plays whatever Tom Atkins, I can't remember his character's name, his ex-wife, and with the kids. So apparently John Carpenter really likes working with her because those are all. I mean, she's been in some other things too, but all three of those are John Carpenter movies. So.
She just likes John Carpenter.
Yeah, but she was great as Annie. She was great.
Absolutely, I love it. All right, so we have some upcoming movie anniversaries. I know this first one. I'm sure Dave loves this one. I've not seen this one, but December 15, 1974, Young Frankenstein. Never seen that one. I'm sure it's good though.
Man, okay, see, you got to put it on the list now. Young Frankenstein and Mel Brooks with. Gene Wilder in it, and it's a kind of a take where Gene Wilder plays the son of Dr. Frankenstein and goes back. Oh, it's so great, so much comedy. It is so well done, and I mean it's so many parts. But there's the part where Igor. Every time Igor answers the door and someone's there or whatever, and he says that Igor's like, walk this way. And the way he, with his humpback and the way he walks, people walk like he does. It's classic. And that whole line from Young Frankenstein where he says, "Walk this way," that's where Aerosmith lifted for the song. That's where they got
Really?
well, according to Steven Tyler. But yeah, so you got to put that on the list. Young Frankenstein is a classic. Classic. It is one of the greatest movies of all time. And you'll love it. So
Well,
you got to watch it. You have to watch it. And it's it's in the 70s, right? It's made to kind of have a little feel and stuff like the old Universal movies, right? Because it's supposed to fit right in with
right.
those. They observe. I mean, to the point of a lot of the props and things were they went and got the same props used in Frankenstein, and from the studios that they had for authenticity, and stuff. So, but yes, again, you guys start knocking things off this list.
I know. I'm gonna have like a whole like book before we're done adding stuff to this list. I swear.
If you're gonna have a little time off the holidays, you got to at least knock one or two off.
I think I will.
But so yeah, put Young Frankenstein on the list because that's a must see.
Young Frankenstein's going on the list.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So moving back to the movie anniversaries, got that added to my list. December 20th, 1974, we have Black Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this at length last episode, or the episode before, but we were just talking kind of about, the history of the remakes and whatnot. And we were talking about how we really enjoyed the original, how, Monica enjoys the remake, from 2006 or so, and how I've also seen the one from 2020 or whatever. But we were just kind of talking about it. But we actually reviewed this film last year, the 1974 version, and I believe we both enjoyed it, if I remember correctly. I know that I did, and I'm pretty sure Dave does. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's got Margot Kidder in it, which she was one of my first crushes because she was Lois Lane in the original the '78 Superman. But yeah, it's a fun movie. I like it. It's again, that's one of my favorite Christmas horror movies, and I love it. Love Black Christmas.
Gotta love Black Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And then December 20th, 1996. This movie we've talked about is so much, but Scream. Scream is the original meta slasher. It does so much for the slasher genre and so much for the horror genre. Wes Craven is a master at doing these types of movies, and Scream is no exception. It's such a good movie. Like I said, we've talked at lengths about how much we love this movie and how much we love the people in it. And last week, we didn't have a whole lot of news, but we talked extensively about where we think this next Scream movie is going to have to go. So.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to dive back into the Scream rabbit hole. It's the talk of Horrorville, and who knows what's going to happen there. I'm going to choose just to sit back and let it unravel and see if I like it. And but the one thing I do know is Scream itself is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is classic. It was genre changing. It was so clever. Still is, but so clever at the time, and it just, I mean, it to me it changed horror, and started it started this whole a trend of horror movies. Right, there's so many movies that are Scream like. I mean, to me, we're talking today about It's a Wonderful Knife, and I watched it, and I can feel Scream vibes in it, and some of that influence, and fingerprints on it, in that movie. So it is definitely up there to me. I don't know. As far as slashers go, it's a top 10 iconic movie to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But all right, now we are going to move on to upcoming releases. Nothing crazy, but Santa Stein comes to Screambox on December 19th. The movie is described as when Max Causey was 6, he accidentally killed Santa. 12 years later, he rectifies his mistake by resurrecting Santa, but soon realizes the creature is a bloodthirsty killer. I love Screambox films. This is a very interesting concept, so I will definitely be checking this one out.
Yeah, I mean, I love Frankenstein, and this just sounds fun. It's one of those movies, it's like you're not expecting Oscar award-winning filmmaking in this, but it just sounds fun. And I like the concept, so I'm very much looking forward to watching it. And I love the phrase Santa Stein. Maybe someone has done that before, but how's nobody made a movie called Santa Stein already?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That one's a pretty good idea. I don't know how that one's not been snatched up yet, but I'm glad somebody finally did it, and I guess we'll see how this goes. We'll just wait and see. I have a feeling it'll be good. Like you said, I'm not expecting a masterpiece, but should be interesting.
Yep, should be fun.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up all of our birthdays, upcoming releases, movie anniversaries, and news. A lot of cool stuff this week, but here's what I gotta say. You gotta follow us on social media. I'm not gonna call you names this time. I'm just gonna tell you you need to follow us on social media because we post about this stuff when it happens. So if you want to make sure that you are up to date and you're chatting with the people you like to chat with, make sure you follow us on social medias. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. But coming up next is our official review, the long-awaited review of It's a Wonderful Knife. Stick around.
Listen to Their Screams is now a Fangoria collaborator. Get 20% off your order at shop.fangoria.com by using the promo code LISTEN2SCREAMS at checkout. That is listen, the number 2, and screams. Or you can click the link in the show notes.
All right, and we're back here on Listen to Their Screams. And like I said, it is time for a review of It's a Wonderful Knife. I said long awaited. I don't know if it's long awaited, but it's here nonetheless. The movie was released November 10th in theaters, and it is now available on Shudder and AMC Plus. Written by Michael Kennedy, directed by Tyle McIntyre, starring Jane Widdop, Joel McHale, and Justin Long. And it is described as after saving her town from a psychotic killer, Winnie Carruthers' life is less than wonderful. When she wishes she'd never been born, she finds herself in a nightmare parallel universe where without her, things could be much, much worse. And you know, I watched this movie. It was fun. And it kind of kept me on my toes because when I first started watching it, I almost immediately thought, I'm not going to like this movie because I started watching it and it's like, you just got a matter of a couple minutes in and you automatically knew the Justin Long character was the killer. I like it. It's him. No doubt. It's him. There's just no, I mean, if they try to do anything else, it's not going to make sense. And then I guess I kind of forgot the description because we talked about the description of the movie and I guess it kind of, I really wasn't thinking of it. And, but then they killed him, unmasked the show, and went to the opening title screen. I was like, okay. Well, okay, maybe, it was supposed to be that obvious, right? It was intended to be that way. And, then when they went, into this parallel universe, it was a lot of fun. And, it played on quite a few emotions, right? Where you saw the dad anguish because his son had been killed, and you saw just the weird. It was weird. This town, Angel Falls. It's like where they just accepted that this killer was going to pop up and kill people every so often, and it's like what was her name? Winnie thought that that this is still the guy, the Justin Long guy who's mayor of the town. He's still the killer, right? It's still him. It's got to be, but it wasn't. But you could clearly see that the mayor was benefiting from this, right? He was using this as kind of this ploy to stay in power, of constantly promising the people, I will keep you safe, right? I will solve this. I will be the savior. And I like how they called the killer the angel. And the killer it was a great look. It looked awesome. I like that mask and everything with it. But then it's like where things kind of start unraveling and the people end up rising up, and then you find out that this is all spoilers. So, and hopefully people by now know, and they take this to heart. We've given you some time. This movie's been out over a month in theaters, and it's been out, for I think a week or two now on Shudder. Hopefully you've seen it. but you find out in this alternate universe, it's the dad that's the killer, right? And that the mayor pretty much, pulled his strings, played on his grief and whatever else, and used him as part of this ploy and stuff. And it just like he was using his brother. It was his brother, right? That was the sheriff or whatever.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who was really really a dork in the other one, in the other timeline. Had one of the best lines in the movie, because in the original timeline where they talked about how he had an OnlyFans now.
Yeah.
And he said something about, he was like going live on TikTok, and he's like, what was it he said? He's like, hey everybody, if you hope to see my penis, sure in luck, but I guarantee it won't fit under the tree. And it just made me chuckle. I was like, it was so I don't know, whatever you want to say. So I don't know, Beavis and Butthead. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Very out of pocket.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I mean, it was a fun movie, right? And the twist and of course, that maybe this won't land for everybody, but there are some definite supernatural alumni in this movie that I saw. Catherine Isabel was in it, from Ginger Snaps, and who was in Jason versus Freddy, and then of course was in Supernatural. And then I don't know the one girl's name, but she played the girl who in the original timeline Wendy's boyfriend cheated with, and then in the other timeline they were together. She was in a few episodes of Supernatural as some kids that lived in the town that were friends with Jack for a bit. So she was in some episodes of Supernatural too, a couple.
Yeah, her character's name was Darla, I think.
Darla, yeah, that's right. But yeah, she was in a couple episodes of Supernatural as well. So I always pick up on those when I see people like that. But and of course Justin Long's great. I love Justin Long and everything he does. He has become probably the best character actor of modern day. He plays so many little quirky roles like this, and it's just you can just tell he has so much fun playing these unique characters that are weird, and he does such a good job. So all right, I'm gonna pass it off, Ike, and let you talk about It's a Wonderful Knife.
Absolutely. So when this movie first came out, I wasn't totally sure if I was going to be able to see it in theaters, but my wife was like, yeah, I really want to see it. So we ended up going and watching it. And I think I watched it, the week after it came out, on a Tuesday or something like that. But I'm very glad I got to go see it in theaters. It was a really cool experience. I really, really enjoyed the movie. The movie was moving very quickly, as Dave mentioned. You basically got the setup, the kill, everything else within like 10, 15 minutes of the movie starting. You're like, holy shit, okay, well, I guess that's what that was. And that was all there was to it. And then I was like, okay, well, where's this going to go? And then it kind of turns into, It's a Wonderful Life, where, he, well, what would happen if I wasn't born, and this, that, and the other. And you have this whole new timeline, and it's very intriguing. It was honestly very enjoyable. It was fun. It was funny, but it also had a lot of very, very brutal kills. And it definitely posed a very interesting question about, what if you watched your favorite horror movie, right? And let's say you watch Halloween. What would Halloween be without Dr. Loomis? You know what I mean? What would that movie be without one of the main protagonists? And I think the outcome of that film would be very different than what it was. So it's sort of a what if story. What if the final girl wasn't actually the final girl? What if the final girl wasn't there? And I think this movie has a lot of, like you said, it has a lot of really great actors, actresses. Jane Widdop, who plays Winnie, the main protagonist, she's actually from Yellow Jackets, which is fantastic. Obviously, Joel McHale plays her dad. I love Joel McHale. I think he's hilarious. But he played a very good, serious role in this one. I mean, his life in the kind of the alternate timeline was very sad, and he played the role so good. I think I was expecting him to be comedy relief, but he actually ended up being like a very, very serious role, and it was great. Justin Long, I love Justin Long. I think he was truly the comedy relief of this, because his character just looks so fucking ridiculous. I mean, the
Yeah.
really fake like white teeth, the really tan skin, like
That hair.
the hair, it was just it was super uncanny. Like it was just like looking at him, he didn't seem human. Like, but obviously he was, but he looked so weird. And I think that worked really well because like anytime he was on screen, you're obviously looking at him, so you're like, holy shit, he looks weird. But he did so good. Justin Long, like you said, Justin Long is going to one day we're going to look back at Justin Long and we're going to realize that yeah, he played a lot of these weird roles and stuff like that, but like truly Justin Long is one of the greatest actors of our generation. I mean, even just in the last couple of years, I mean, he was in Barbarian, he was in the Ghostbusters TV show, which is on Disney Plus, which is so freaking good. I mean, he's just done so much, and I mean, he's having a career renaissance, just like Matthew Lillard, I think, and I think we'll probably see more Justin Long in the future too. But in any case, it's a Wonderful Knife. It's such a good movie. It poses such a really great question. It's such a great concept. And honestly, I think this is one of the stronger Shudder movies that's been put out there. And I think that one of the biggest things, one of the biggest like proofs that this is a good Shudder movie is that it got released in theaters before they threw it on streaming. A lot of Shudder movies didn't get that treatment, but I think that this kind of paves the way for other Shudder movies to get that treatment, that experience, because this movie did relatively well from what I remember, and you know, it had a pretty good turnout, and I mean, it was just good fun. It was just a good fun horror movie. I mean, it didn't take itself too seriously, but it still had a really cool concept, and I also kind of like that the little twist at the end where, you know, it really wasn't about Winnie, it was about Bernie. It was about saving Bernie and about, you know, making sure she knew that she wasn't alone and everything else. And it was a very interesting, you know, kind of twist at the end, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I would definitely say this is going to be on one of my rewatches for the years. You know, it's good. I like you said, it's definitely fits into the genre of like a meta slasher. So I would put it up not on the same level as Scream, but I would put it in at the same genre. You know, it's not your typical slasher. It's an atypical slasher, and it does it so good.
Yeah, it's you know, it took a twist on a Christmas movie that typically doesn't get that horror twist to it, right? It's you know, you get these other you get lots of movies that are spoofed and turned into horror movies and whatever else, but this one, it's kind of unique the way they did it, and they approached it and like you said, like I said earlier, and it's not, you know, you don't want to compare it to Scream. It's not that, right? It's not that level even, but you can tell that Scream influence is all over it, right? This is what happens when Scream came along, and how I said kind of changed the genre. You get, you know, movies like this that are different, that you know, like you said, meta, and that again, it's not, you know, it's not an apples to apples comparison to Scream, but it's got some of that vibe, some of that feel, some of that influence is definitely there. So it was a fun movie. It would be one that I will rewatch as well as a Christmas horror movie every year. I mean, there's no shortage of Christmas horror, and it seems like every year we're getting more and more that are quality, that are good enough to be, you know, on rewatch lists, and you know, that's a good thing. You would just, I don't know, you would think at some point they would I don't know, that they would run out of Christmas inspiration for some of these, but then every year it seems like there's one or two that just knock it out of the park. Yeah, and this year, I mean, to me, I think this so far for what we've seen is the first one that's really, you know, I mean, Nightmare on 34th Street had you know, we talked about it, had some flaws, not one that I probably will rewatch, but you know, this one is definitely, you know, got, you know, rewatchability. It's not you know, it's not, you know, genre chasing, not groundbreaking per se, but it's clever, original, fresh enough, and entertaining, that it works, and it's, you know, again, I key up on the killer always having a good look about him, right?
Yeah.
It has to be, if you're going to do that with a central killer like this, and this one, again, in that I don't want to say parody, it's not the right word. I don't know, the inspiration, coming from It's a Wonderful Life and some of that side of things, to kind of parlay this into an angel like thing and call him the angel. And they even had that mock-up doll of him on the one tree or whatever, and different things. It was different, right? He wasn't this dark looking character, even though he was very violent and what have you, but he wasn't your typical dicked in black, blah blah blah. It was, but once again, even the killer struck me as very Ghostface like.
Yeah.
And it was some differences, but just in the approach. But
well, that's what I was gonna say too. Is I think that this year has done really well at creating. I guess the best way to say it is like marketable serial killers. Like you have Homeboy from Thanksgiving. I cannot remember his name.
John Carver.
John Carver.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the Angel from this movie, which both are very creative, very marketable characters that have a good look to them. You know what I mean? And I think that's, like you said, that's one of the biggest things that a lot of major horror movies do is that they create an icon. Halloween has Michael Myers. Friday the 13th has Jason Voorhees. Nightmare on Elm Street has Freddy Krueger. And I think this year we just had a lot of really good marketable characters who, in my opinion, definitely make the movie better because the Angel looks good. It looks legitimately creepy. It looks simple, but the simplicity of that killer makes them scary. Yeah. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be like the super complex or convoluted costume. It could literally just be this plain white mask that's somewhat reflective running at you, and you're just like, well, shit, this is terrifying. And so I feel like this year they really amped up just like the characters. I felt like they really took time to develop the look of the killer versus just trying to make a story and then just throw a character in there to start killing people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Both of these definitely felt like they had an idea for the killer and then they formulated a story to kind of work with what they wanted the killer to look like, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I watch a movie like this or whatever with, the central killer character like this with, the costume killer. And usually when I see them, one of the first things I always ask myself is, would I like to see an action figure or a statue of this sitting on my shelf?
Yeah.
And how cool would it look? And I immediately thought that with John Carver from Thanksgiving. And they were already ready. There's already going to be figures and things of that coming out. But when I saw it, I thought, that would make a cool action figure sitting on the shelf. And it was the same with this. I saw this. I thought, that would be a cool looking figure or statue sitting on the shelf. But it did remind me a little bit of Moon Knight from Marvel.
Yeah, it does.
It
does.
Yeah, but in its look, but even a little more simplistic. But I like it. It's because as far as horror goes, it's as far as a look, it's a good contrast to some of the other things. So, all right. But again, it was a clever movie, great cast, pretty cool looking character. Again, nothing superly over convoluted, nothing that will just absolutely knock you completely off your feet as far as storytelling. But it's enough there to keep you intrigued, keep you interested, and just do. And again, it was fun. That's the word I always go back to. It was an enjoyable watch. It was fun to watch. So let's rate this thing, Ike. Out of 5 screams, I think I'm going to give It's a Wonderful Knife 3.5. Because again, 3 is kind of our middle of the ground. We enjoyed it. It didn't break, shake up the genre, didn't recreate anything. But it wasn't, there wasn't really anything stinky about it per se. And I think this was just a notch above that. I think it was slightly not good enough, not enough there for me to be a 4, to be on that level. But more there than a 3 movie. So I'm giving it a 3.5.
Gotcha. Yeah, I went back and forth on this a lot just because when I watched the movie, when we walked out of the theater, I was trying to formulate in my head, like, just based on pure enjoyability. I was like, how am I going to rate this? And I was like, man, it's not a 3, but I feel like a 3.5 isn't good enough. So I'm going to have to say this is a 4 out of 5 for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I think I enjoyed this movie. I think I mentioned it last week, but this is definitely a contender for my top 5 movies of the year. It was just so interesting to me, and it was such an interesting, fresh concept for a horror movie. And obviously, they stole some content from it's a Wonderful Life. It's definitely a horror version of It's a Wonderful Life, but despite that, it still felt original. It still felt new. And I fully enjoyed it. So I have to give it a 4 out of 5.
All right. Well, there you go. So a average of 3.75 for us here on Listen to Their Screams. So go out and watch it. And we've got some fun episodes coming up here in the next couple weeks, because we're pretty much to the end of the year, and we have pretty much one more week of a review. Next week we're going to review The Mean One with David Howard Thornton playing the Grinch. I know. Lots of people bash it. Lots of people blah. I don't give a crap. I want to watch this movie. Ike wants to watch this movie. We didn't get to watch it when it came out. I just want to have fun watching David Howard Thornton play another wacky character, and I'm ready. So we're doing that next episode, and then we get down to wrapping up business and starting new business, because then on the 28th, December 28th episode, we're going to do a 2024 preview. We're going to take a look at the expected movies to come out next year, and some of those things, and talk about what we're excited for, what we're looking forward to, what we think maybe will be some of the bigger successes, what might surprise us. And then, we may even go out on some limbs and come up with some things that aren't out there, that haven't been thrown out into the ethos yet, that we think will happen next year, whether it be some kind of an announcement, some kind of a movie project, just something. We're gonna throw some predictions. We're gonna make some predictions. Wacky, bold. We're just gonna stand our ground and see what we can do. And like we've said before, we're either going to look like geniuses or fools, or perhaps just a mixture of both. But that's okay. We're going to have a good time doing it. And then the episode after that is the first one of 2024. It is January 4th. So the 2023 will officially be complete and over and behind us. So that one, we're going to do our 2023 review, where we talk about this year and everything we've watched and reviewed, and maybe stuff we haven't talked about and whatever else. And that's the one where we're going to officially give our cumulative Listen to Their Screams top 5 movies of 2023, and what we did. I'm going to look back. I want to look back and see what we did for last year and see how we were, because I don't even remember. It seems like it's forever ago since we did this for 2022.
I mean, it was a year ago.
Yeah, but it was weird, because when we did that, we only started in September.
Yeah.
With the show, so we were actually talking about movies that we had seen or whatever else, but not in the context of really discussing and reviewing. So this will be our first time with a full calendar year under our belts of watching a lot of movies. We've done a review every week, not all new, but the vast majority. We've done a mixture of theatrical releases, of online stuff, video on demand, streaming services. We even had a movie, that people sent us Blu-rays that we watched. We've done a little bit of everything, and so I feel like we've really got a good range that we've watched. And then there's several movies that we've watched, one or both of us, that we didn't review, right? That we didn't even talk about. Who knows? Maybe something like that will slip into the discussion. Who knows? But it is intriguing, because, like I said, we got the full calendar year that we've been doing this. But last year, we knew Terrifier 2 was going to be at the top of that list.
Oh, of course.
I mean, there was no question with us and our tastes and what we like. I don't think it's as definitive this year. I really, nothing jumps out at me as, yep, that's guaranteed going to be our number one. I just don't. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm not saying that this is a worse year for movies. I think it might be on the contrary. I think the pool's a little deeper for movies we enjoyed this year. That it's going to be harder for us to whittle it down to 5. And but I'm excited. I'm looking forward to. I like these. I like these exercises. I like doing stuff like this because it really makes you think hard, right? It really we rate these every week, but it's I like sitting down and comparing them to each other of what we like more, and it'll be good. But we will probably be starting those discussions amongst ourselves very soon, so that because it'll take a while. It'll be an ongoing process. So that's what we got coming up in the next few weeks. So in case you missed all that, all you got to know is next episode, it's the main one. And that's what we're going to watch. So, and I will bet anything in the world that at some point during that episode, Ike will sing a little verse of that, or at least a line or two from that song.
Of course. So, I mean, always got to sing a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you sang in every episode with the news introduction that we've looped. But so anyway, we are almost to Christmas, and we're doing our last Christmas review with The Mean One, starring David Howard Thornton. I'm looking forward to that. That will be on next episode. And then, like I said, we'll do the 2024 preview, the 2023 review, and then we'll dive into 2024 and see what it brings us week by week. So, Ike, before we close this episode out, anything you want to say?
Oh, Lord. Well, all I can say is if you haven't already, make sure you check out It's a Wonderful Knife. You won't regret it. And like you said, I'm excited to watch The Mean One next week. I'm not expecting it to be super great or I expect it to be great, but I don't expect it to be record-breaking or Oscar award-winning. But yeah, I'm super excited. I'm excited for the new year. And like you said, it's going to be a good year. It's going to be a good review. But also I'm looking forward to looking into 2024 and saying, what's going to be what's going to flop? We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think the rating and the ranking this year is going to be a lot harder because, like you said, last year we only had a few months to operate off of, but we have a full 12 months this year, and it is going to be interesting to see where we go.
Yeah. And I think looking at 2024 is going to be intriguing too, because coming into 2023, we knew of some major movies coming out, right? We knew there was going to be another Scream movie, another Exorcist movie, another Saw movie. I don't even know what else. That's just off the top of my head. We knew those movies were coming. And I don't feel like there's as right off the top as many. I mean, we know there's a new Terrifier, right, coming. Maybe a couple others. But as far as big franchises, I don't know. Is there another Exorcist coming next year? Are they turning it out just a year later for the next one?
That's a good question. Yeah, so that might be on the radar.
Yeah. So when we do that preview, we'll look into that stuff. But there's not as many big franchise movies that pop immediately to head. We're going to have to do a little investigating on the dates on some of these. There's obviously another Scream movie coming at some point. Who knows what's going to happen with that right now, though? With everything going, I mean, are they going to be able to pull it out for 2024? That's what they wanted to do. But obviously, there's a lot of flux there. So we're going to have to do some investigating when we go to do that preview episode. So we're going to have to do our homework for these episodes. And but it's fun. It's good stuff. So, but all right, like I said, make sure you follow us on social media. Make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure you engage with us out there on our posts and share. We like interacting with you all. We appreciate your support and everything you do. And remember, Christmas is right around the corner. It's not too late to order one of the Listen to the Screams t-shirts for your favorite horror movie fan. There's a link in the show notes. Click that sucker and order one or all for that horror fan on your shopping list. Let Santa Stein come down and shove one of those in their stocking. And Christmas is coming. Time off. Everybody enjoy the season. Watch Christmas horror movies. We'll be back next week with our review of The Mean One. But until then, wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.